just got to take the pain. This is your show.
That's right. No, that's fine. You good? You cozy? You ready to
I'm
go?
good. Yeah, man. I think you have some good bloopers.
Yeah, already. Now I have all the dirt. Well, we'll get started. Yeah.
I can't make.
Welcome to
an
Half-Hearted. Welcome, Jeremy Dobski. Did I say Jeremy?
You want to start again? Let's start again.
Welcome to Half-Hearted. Thanks for coming, Jeremy Dobski.
Hey, no problem, man. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
What credit should I do for you? You have a special that's coming. What's it called?
I do have a comedy special that is coming out, assumedly February 15th, but by the end of February, just delays in production. But
what goes into making a special? Like, this is your first one.
Yeah.
So like,
it's called Love Language, by the way.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You know that was a Christian author, right?
What's that?
The Love Languages.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. No, I don't know.
You've heard of the Love Languages.
Yeah, I know. That's why that's why. So it's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek use of love languages.
Yeah.
Which is funny because the joke where I talk about love language is a joke about eating ass. So it's very tongue-in-cheek, actually.
Literally.
Two cheeks.
Tongue-in-cheeks?
It's the new David Lynch film.
Oh, gross.
Tongue-in-cheeks. Yeah, anything... Anything bodily and David Lynch, you're like, oh no, none of that.
Yeah, I know he's not going to do it well. Not in a way I'm going to want to see.
Imagine David Lynch started shooting pornos at the end of his career. He's like, fuck it, I've done all sorts of stuff. He starts making avant-garde pornos.
Yeah, but it'll be like pornos that like this feels like a crime. Like,
well, it's funny because his crime films feel like porno. So.
Well, I mean, yeah. Have you seen Lost Highway?
Oh yeah.
Like there's boobs in it, but I don't like it.
Yeah, and they're great. They're great boobs. Patricia Arquette's boobs.
Yeah, 90s. Yeah.
Yeah. But you don't feel good about it.
Nope. Nope.
That's how you know you're watching. Like, I mean, Lost Highway is hard to call. Like, oh, it's a good. Like, it is a good film. But that's how you know that you're watching a good film is when there's like a sex scene and you're like, I don't need that. Like, well, this is just part of the story. You know, it's like. Or you're like, yeah, we don't need this here. You know, one of those maybe.
Yeah, I find a lot of nudity. Yeah, horror especially is just totally unnecessary. And rape. Like I remember back in the day, it was like I had just started dating my girlfriend, who is now my wife, and then we went to Blockbuster. This is how long ago, and we rented Serpico. And and when we checked it out, I said, "There's no rape in this, right?" And they're like, no, of course. First 5 minutes.
I see. At least you didn't rent Irreversible.
First 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, man. Well, like, you know, there's boobs in The Shining. You just...
Yeah.
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 There's boobs and there's a blowjob in The Shining, too.
Is there?
Yeah, it's the bear, guy in the top hat and the bear.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah. It's I haven't watched that one in a while.
Fantastic.
Yeah. 2001 I've watched recently, though. That one's great. I like that one.
Anyway, about my filmmaking.
Yes, that's right. You're coming up with a special. What goes into making a special?
It's very unlike any David Lynch or Stanley Kubrick film you've ever seen. What goes into it? Honestly, it depends on what you want from it. So originally, I was just going to do an album, and Joey Harlem, friend of mine, he and I have ventured into production, and he said, well, let's just film it. And it turns out that what really goes into a special is a lot of money.
Well, like, how many cameras did you use?
Three cameras. And there's a lot of learning from it because not only did I write it all, so it's obviously jokes that I've written, but then in writing it, even as just an album, I recognized, I have to expand in places that I didn't realize I was going to have to when I'd originally written the jokes. Because you go on stage, you do your 5 to 10 to even 20, and you go, all right, here's the list of jokes I do. I'll figure out how to, the transitions and the non sequiturs and stuff. Yeah. Once you have an album, and this was what happened to me was, once I started actually writing it, I started recognizing, one, which jokes were actually incomplete. Yeah. Because I had to connect it to the next joke, but I had to do it in story form. Because the jokes that I did in this special, I veered away from anything personal. I just wanted to be silly. Yeah. I really just wanted to tell silly jokes and say silly things, but still create a thorough through line.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole thing. In order for it to tell a story still.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to
No,
you?
that makes sense. I mean, it's almost like when I remember when I first started.
Yeah.
And like I killed for the first time. And it was like the time that I actually went, okay, these are all the jokes that I have. This is all the things that work. This is how I can string them together in a way that it's somewhat cohesive. But it's cool that you say that, because one of the things that I always like when I see you is you don't seem like particularly attached to like any order of your jokes, because I've seen you enough, like I know some of your bits, but you never do like, this is my opener, this is my middle, this is my end. Like I find that you are totally cool with like mixing and matching all the different stuff in your repertoire to make it like work for that situation.
The moment.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one thing that stand-up comedy's really strayed from, honestly, is the being in the moment. Whatever that is, I'm not afraid of like whatever the moment. If the moment throws dog shit in my face, then I guess I'm gonna have to work with having dog shit thrown in my face. You know? Last night a guy flipped. Last night I did a show, and I was hosting the show, and I got really excited because it was a sold out show at the Corner Comedy Club, and the whole room, there were so many bald guys, and I love when there's bald guys in the audience. So I called, oh, this bald guy, and then there was one guy by himself. I was like, oh, we got a lonely bald guy. Like, trying to be his friend. I'm trying to be his friend. When I make fun of bald guys, I'm like, you guys are my brothers. I love you. I love every single one of you.
We're in the club.
I don't care what else you believe in. You know? If you can be a Catholic priest, if you're bald, we can vibe, you know? I don't actually mean that. But then I called on this guy. I go, there's a lonely bald guy here. And he stood up and he was like, fuck you, and he threw a chair.
Whoa.
Yeah, he flipped the full house, and he's throwing, fuck you, Jeremy. He knew my name. Fuck you, Jeremy. He must have listened to the intro very astutely.
That's so funny to
fuck you, Jeremy. He threw a chair and screamed his way out of the club, like on his way. Shut the fuck up. And he apparently, a bunch of comics follow. I'm hosting. It was the first minute of the show. Within a minute.
Yes.
Within a minute.
Yeah.
And listen, I'll upset people. I'll upset people like in a quiet way, but it's very rare for me to get a rise out of someone. Like it was wild, man. And he just ran down the alley screaming, "What are you looking at?" And
So I'm gonna chalk that up to not your fault.
No, I
How'd the rest of the show go?
It was great. It was a great show. It's just like, first of all, I was terrified. The audience was terrified, and like we had to heal. To heal. It took a while, but then someone started doing some cum jokes, and the audience were like, "All right, we don't have to be worried anymore. We're safe here. We're safe amongst the cum."
That's right.
But what were we saying? Oh yeah, so piecing things together and all of that. Yeah. That was honestly the hardest part of putting together the album, other than like the anxiety, because it was definitely quite anxious, was exactly what you're saying, is that I'm very much about, I like to get on stage and play and then find some jokes, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, back to the drawing board. But truly, this was the first time I really, really went to the drawing board.
Yeah.
And because most of my jokes had been in note form, or if I'd written them out, they were just like, ideas strewn about. I'm very much in my head. And this actually gave me a really good habit of constructing my jokes so that I never have to do this again.
Yeah.
Where I had to create through lines. So, I did that. And then obviously there's, the recording team, which is my recording team because I've been in audio for almost 20 years.
Was yours... Oh no, we said cameras. Okay, so it's not audio only. Yeah.
And then the cameras, that was Joey's department, and I'm like producing this thing. I'm directing it. I'm writing it. And I learned a lot about. There's got to be like, if you have camera set up, you really need direction.
Yeah.
But I'm really proud of what came out of it. And my only regret about the whole thing is I missed one tag. Would have just made and the thing is it's because I missed other stuff, but there's one tag in particular I'm like, this just would have made the joke so much better. But you can't do anything about it. But it's a nice lesson in letting things go.
Did you do a single show or did you do multiple?
I did 2 shows.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you miss it both times?
Did I miss it both times. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Bummer.
But here's the thing: is it's a tag.
Yeah.
And I missed it because a punchline. So here's what happened. Actually, is because I threw a related joke into. So I had like one long bit.
Yeah.
And I threw a joke into it that
Yes.
doesn't always go there.
Yes. Okay.
It fits, but it doesn't always go there.
Yeah.
But I put it there, and the laugh that I got was so loud, like was so not so loud, but so honestly, the reaction to the joke was so visceral that I was like, I just was like, perfect, and I moved on. Like I know the psychology of what happened, in that I didn't think to say I was like, that joke's fucking done, and whatever, I don't think this is interesting to anybody but myself.
No, that's I think people like to hear inside baseball when it comes to comedy.
Yeah, honestly, it's also, at some point you go, okay, well, it's a tag, and yeah, it would have popped bigger, but am I also beating a dead horse? Like, the audience got the point of the joke, and then I go, maybe I need to say the joke again. And honestly, it just makes the joke less mean when I when I hit the tag, and I think that's more the concern.
Nice. And then and it'll be out sometime in February.
In February,
nice.
Yeah.
And then how about your show? Paralegal. Sorry. Legal.
Ghost lawyers.
That's right. Which I think, I've seen the artwork for it, and it seems like you got some heavy hitters voice wise. So it seems really cool, man.
Yeah, man. It's super, super rad. It's been an amazing, it's been a really incredible year for me. In that, it's all just growth. Mm-hmm. Honestly, it just comes from me picking myself up by the bootstraps and being like, dude, you got to do your homework. And obviously I met someone who helped me facilitate this, but at the same time, had I not had, the years of work behind me to show anything at all, then I wouldn't have gotten it. But yeah, no, I'm super excited about it. We've got Kevin McDonald and Bruce McCulloch signed onto the show. Plus we have some of the Tall Boys and Courtney Gilmore. Yeah. We have an incredible writing team. We're with Lakeside Animation, who just have had several films winning awards globally. So, and Matt Lyon, the head artist, the head animator, just brilliant storyteller. Yeah. And then he had me and Tim, who are just two fucking doofuses who are like, here's a joke. He's like, yeah, but we have to write a story. We're like, okay, but like, what if the story had this joke in it? He's like, no, we have to write a story. And we ended up with something that we're super proud of. It looks beautiful. The animation style is pretty original. We have a trailer also dropping within the next few weeks. Oh, nice. The thing is like nowadays the way media works is you never actually have dates or deadlines. Like you have deadlines, but everybody's Beyonce now. We're all like, lemonade will drop when it drops.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, we had a premiere of the trailer, and then we all found things where like, let's fix this. And, that's what goes into all of this stuff, honestly, is sitting back down and going, all right, like I could release it, but what if I made it better? Yeah. And, now I'm at a place where I've started writing more personal stuff. And now when I watch my special, I'm like, this is great, but man, it's not as good as what I'm going to do next.
Yeah. Well, are you, that was going to be my question when you were talking about it, is, are you going to retire that material?
A lot of it. Yeah. A lot of it. Some of it I'll keep doing. And it depends also, if somebody's paying me to do a good job, I'm not going to be like, hey, I wrote this one today.
Yeah. Okay. So you burned, well, I just wasn't sure how much you had, because I know that you've been doing comedy 10 plus years, correct? Yeah. That's true. So I know that you had a lot.
And I threw, actually, before I even recorded it, I threw out a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. And then there's a bunch of stuff that I was going to put on it that I figured I could make better now. Yeah. So there's that, because also rewriting all of my jokes for the special made them better. And then I had other ones where I was like, this one's going to need more time than I have. But most of it I'm retiring. Anything about COVID, I'm not talking about it anymore. Yeah. Even some jokes I didn't record, I don't want to talk about it anymore unless it's from, a retrospective gaze rather than one like, hey, like, still living in it, telling the joke kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, I don't. Unfortunately, the safety mechanism of talking about fucking.
Yes.
I don't really
Yeah.
have that right now because I burned a lot of that material.
Yeah. Okay.
In
Okay.
my it's hard when I'm having trouble gaining the audience. I'm like, man, I don't have any jokes about fucking to tell anymore.
Yeah. That's. Are you dating? Do you have
I have a
lady?
girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
she's gonna have to start making you. You're gonna have to just start like.
No, I talked about it on the special.
Yeah.
I talked about it. Well, I'm working on more personal stuff, and I think that you could connect with people pretty easily there. And
Yeah.
Chris Rock said, food, family, and love. And if you
Yeah.
talk about any of those things, so I'm trying to aim at some of those. I'm also headed towards your age, and so I'm
Yeah.
I'm starting to mature in the things that I want to talk about.
Yeah, it's funny.
There's a universe out there.
There's like
outside
an
of our
age that
pants.
comics get to where they're like, Jay, I need to talk about laying a foundation for my life.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm doing. I mean, I'm doing well, and I'm happy. I'm happy where I'm at. So I'm actually writing material that's a little. I find that when I write like cleaner stuff too, I'm always I just love talking about death and and Hitler. Those are my like. I actually was really struggling this week because I wrote like 3 jokes about Hitler, and then I was going on stage, and I'm like, man, I have to stop writing about Hitler. He's just so funny. He's just so funny.
I thought you were gonna be like, I went a whole week with like I'm really mad at myself. I've run a whole week without writing a Hitler joke, and just I don't feel like myself.
No, I'm done. I'm done with the guy. I can't talk about him anymore. I keep wanting to say I wrote my last Hitler joke, but we know it's not gonna happen. Death I will talk about forever. I think death is the most interesting thing to talk about.
Yeah.
We
should talk about it now.
I would love to talk about it.
What do you think happens when we die?
That's a good question, man. Honestly, I have a lot of theories about it. All I know is that our energy comes from somewhere and goes back to somewhere because energy cannot be created or destroyed.
Yes.
So it's the George Carlin great electron theory.
Yeah.
I believe in as a result of that, I believe in some form of reincarnation, but not necessarily within the same consciousness, although it is all one consciousness, and I can go into a whole Buddhist
I want to
spiral if you'd like.
I do. I did want to. What do you think of near-death experiences, though? Like
people witnessing their own.
Yeah, or just if you've heard anything about what people experience when they go through that, like what you make of that. If you think that we go somewhere else.
Well, as a doctor, I mean, I don't know, man. I also, I just read so much philosophy. I'm a very, the reason I'm waffling here is because I'm kind of a simulation theory guy.
Okay.
But I don't want to be taken as like a fucking weirdo conspiracy theorist either. Like I don't believe that the simulation is some sort of conspiratorial thing. I think that it's basically the way that I have seen it, and part of it is because I read a book called The Simulation Hypothesis, I believe, by a guy named last name Virk, Virk, and he talked about it from an Eastern philosophy standpoint. Point system is karma, right? It's work you have to do or work that you've done. Atoms and pixels are similar. The way that frequencies work and bits and such, right?
Well, I mean, there's definitely like, and if you think that there is something else, then you can't help but have some sort of simulation theory, but it's almost like
it's the idea that like everything in life is illusory and that we're just kind of living within the illusion, but there are ways to step outside of it. And
I think the thing that gets me is that simulation theory is almost like it's like God for atheists, so they delay God by one level.
It actually got me more spiritual and had me starting to believe in God.
Mm.
But my concept of God is really just um, like being present in the moment, being honest with what is, experiencing that, experiencing life without being the experiencer almost, recognizing that it's all one experience, that it isn't like, oh, uh, I'm over here, but the nature is over. Like I'm let's say I'm standing at a lake, for
Yeah.
example, and I go, that's a lake and I'm Jeremy. It's like, no, in this moment, I'm part of this lake scene here. Does that make sense?
No.
Where it's like I'm not separate. I'm not separate from the thing that I'm experiencing because.
But how are you not the thing if you're observing it externally?
Well, that's the issue, is that the self says, "Hey, this is a beautiful lake," rather than just being at the lake, for example. Does that make more sense? I know it's kind of a really lofty.
Well, I think that it's
position to take, and maybe I'm not.
Well, maybe you.
Doing
well, I think no. I think this is a good place to like dig into something that is meaningful in the sense of like we experience reality as embodied creatures.
Well, we
right? Like we
experience reality through thought, and then we solidify our thoughts, build a house. I have a thought, oh, the house should go here, or whatever it is, right? Somebody thought of these mechanics and decided to create microphones, and it's all that, and that's great. But when we get trapped in our thoughts, which is things like anxiety and depression, we get trapped in our thoughts. They become, they keep us separate from our experiences. So when you're having anxiety, which is something that I've dealt with a lot, and I used to be pretty severely depressed in my early 20s and throughout teenage years and such, as we are in our teenage years.
Pretty much for the last 15 years.
Yeah, no, I mean, I overcame a lot of...
You are a comic.
I did overcome my depression, though.
Yeah.
I do not experience depression. And whenever I do, I recognize it, etc. But part of it was doing things like meditating and reconfiguring how I experience life. And part of it is being present with things. And I don't think God is anything more spectacular than life itself, and I don't think that the problem with talking about this stuff is it always makes me sound like I have my head up my ass.
I don't think not for
me. And so it's I caution myself in talking about it because, one, I'm not necessarily equipped to describe everything, but also it comes down to this. It's that when you constantly filter your experience through the lens of self, you get like a really minor distillation of what actually is happening, right? So language, for example, exactly what I'm doing right now, the way that I'm having trouble, once again, distilling the ideas that are just floating around in my head and formulating them, writing a joke, writing a set. Why writing is so hard is because words are only symbolic of actual experience, of actual life, of the things around us. And to really find that clarity, I suppose, is to be present with what is and then come back and try to distill it. Okay. Whereas most of the time we're so automatic, I like this, I don't like that. This is this thing. That's ugly. These are this. And then, like,
is it almost like how, like if you were to talk about the experience of the lake, like being in the lake, jumping in the lake, like everything about that experience, like sensorially, we have to assign words to describe it to somebody else.
No one ever goes to a lake and goes, "That's a fucking ugly lake,"
I mean, if you've been to Northern Ontario.
But you know what I mean? Like, you don't walk through the woods going, "I like this tree, I don't like that tree." You just go, "Wow, trees, beautiful." Yeah. But there's a reason that you do that. But then as soon as we're surrounded by people, objects, art, music, whatever, we go, "This is good. This is," but we start to, and then we get into arguments with each other about shit that is completely subjective.
Is it almost like how, if like I'm a guitar geek, right? Like I'm super into guitars and stuff. So like when I watch somebody else play guitar on stage, I'm not simply enjoying the music that I'm hearing in that moment. I'm like, what type of guitar is he using? What type of strings? What type of genre? What is he like? I'm assigning all the labels and the humanness to it.
Say that again. Say that again.
Like, I'm basically trying to.
I know the listeners love when we repeat ourselves.
I know, but no, it's like we're trying to get to the.
Sure. Yeah.
To figure something out, but it's like I'm thinking more in terms of when, opposed to just experiencing it, you're also processing it and labeling it.
Yeah, and the process, I think we jumped the gun. Look at Twitter. Twitter's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Where how many times have you put something out, or any of the internet, but Twitter's a really good one. Because when I used to have Twitter, I'd put something out and be like, fuck, that was an inside thought, you know?
Yeah.
And it's because we're constantly jumping the gun, making our decisions way too quickly and not really experiencing life. We're in this state of constant anxiety, like, I need to create for the future. I need to create for the future. I need to create for the future. And never really stopping to go, hey, right now is pretty cool. Or we're going, fuck, last time, fuck, 10 years ago, shit, I can't believe oh man, if only I, and then not going, hey man, I'm pretty safe right now where I am,
Yeah, no, I get that. I think my wife will like get mad at me because I find I'm in my head a lot.
Sure. And it's hard not to be. We're basically programmed to be in our heads and constantly worried or constantly desirous, and
is that like, to connect to what we were talking about, like what happens after we die is the sense of having some sort of existence where it's just the present and there's no processing for the future?
Well, isn't experiencing the present the best preparation for when you die? Just being like, yeah, man, in this moment, this thing is happening and I have no explanation for it, but it's where I'm at, and I think when we go, a lot of our especially life and health and physical anxieties and fears come from feeling like this is going to be forever. Being stuck in traffic, you feel like that's never going to end.
Yes.
Never going to end.
Yeah.
And that's part of it too, right? Because a lot of people in the present moment, when they're stuck in the present moment, they don't want to be there.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's discomforting.
Yeah. Well, it's like my wife says this to my daughter all the time, because my oldest daughter has always wanted to be like twice whatever age she actually is.
Sure.
Right? Like if she's 6, she wants to be 12.
Sure.
She's 12, she wants to be 18. And it's like my wife has to keep telling her, like, stop wishing your life away.
Yeah.
When you should be enjoying it now.
Absolutely.
Opposed to just wishing that it'll be somehow better in the future. If you get to this thing, it'll be better. Like my daughter just idolizes older, like she's just one of those people who just wants to be out in the world and stuff like that. But she does, in her desire to have that, she's ignoring where she is now.
Right.
And the freedom.
And I think it is a form of fear. And I think that that fear is what causes most mistakes. And that's because we're not being present. We're not listening to our hearts. We're not listening to what is. We're going, what if? A lot of this is, from endless years of having anxiety. And when I have one of like my doctor, who's known me for a long time, he's always saying that to me. He's like, you got to think about what is, not what if.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what addiction is, right? It's being present in the moment and going, fuck this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Fuck this. I don't want to be present. Or people who can't sit without music or can't sit without
they need
some
in
sort
order
of
to
stimulus.
Instead of they're so unable to enjoy the present for what it is, they need chemical assistance.
Sure.
To do that.
In order to do that.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I'm not judging anybody. I've dealt with addiction and
life is hard.
Life is fucking hard. Yeah. And honestly, even if I'm full of shit, let me have it, because life is hard.
Yeah, life is hard, man.
I'm not causing anybody harm by being like, hey, you should be more present. And also, just think about how your actions affect other people,
Yeah, it's kind of like base level.
Yeah. Which is actually kind of interesting if we were talking about my cartoon, which is based around death.
Yeah.
And because our animation house was working on a series that had to do with God and Satan were in it, and there's a whole Jesus thing and whatever. We were not allowed to touch heaven and hell.
Oh.
And I was happy to do that because heaven and hell are played out. I'm done with heaven and hell. We took we had to take, well, write what you know. And what do I know? I know Judaism and I know Buddhism. And I was like, all right, well, let's borrow from those. And we created a really fun universe as a result of it, where ghosts exist within a purgatory, but that purgatory is still here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Did you watch that Pixar movie Soul?
No.
You should check that out, because they also don't like go after heaven and hell either, but still deal with like afterlife and pre-life.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. And we deal with that. And like some of the humor is based in like some of the rules and the more ancient philosophies, which is really fun too. So, like we have a Jewish character. And if a Jewish body isn't buried whole, which is why a lot of Jewish people aren't organ donors.
Yes.
So this person is accidentally dismembered.
Yeah.
And they've been good their whole life. They've been a good, upstanding citizen their whole life.
Yeah.
And they got to come back. They got to come back and they're a ghost now, even though because they weren't buried whole.
Yeah. Well, I remember that's really funny. I reminds me of my days, because I grew up in Thornhill, of all my Jewish friends, like at the time kind of fretting over tattoos.
Sure.
Because they're like, if I get a tattoo, I can't be buried in a Jewish cemetery.
Which is false.
That's not true?
No, that's false.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
That's false.
Is there more to that?
I believe it's in Leviticus. It's Leviticus or Deuteronomy, one of the two.
Leviticus is just all rules.
All the rules. So it's probably so Deuteronomy is a little bit of that too, but
it's Leviticus, Deuteronomy, Numbers. That they're all rules.
Yeah, I think it's in Leviticus though. It does say do not mark your skin or make tattoos, but it doesn't say that you can't be buried in a Jewish cemetery. There's no actual rule on that. I think that because it's like but like you get forgiven. You get forgiven. You go to Yom Kippur. You get back in. So honestly, I think that it might have just been a little bit of a call, like a judgment call on like the people rather than religion.
That's right.
So,
Stick it.
That's not. I know you love your son, but he's gonna be buried in the fucking trash heap.
He's got to go in the Catholic one next door.
Yeah.
You got to see Jesus if you want to see this one.
Put him with the Gentiles. I don't know what that one is. There's a lot of rules in the book that are kind of like premarital sex isn't actually frowned upon. It's
frowned upon, but it's not like end of the world.
No, well, what it actually means. So if you have sex, so according to the Bible, according to the Old Testament, which is the Hebrew Bible, if you have sex with someone out of wedlock, you're married now.
Yeah, that's what I recall. Is you gotta take her.
That's your wife.
Yeah, that's your wife now.
Yeah.
So congratulations.
So you're everybody's married.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
and
right.
if you're not married, you're a fucking nerd.
Well, I mean, that's what like I don't know if you've heard the story of Jesus with the woman at the well, and he's like, she's like, I don't have a husband. And he's like, you're right. You have 5 husbands, right? Or it's just like I don't know. Which is like such like you never see like Jesus like stick it to somebody, right? It's just so subtle. Yeah, that's right. You got 5.
He was just a magician, and he pulled 5 husbands out of her ass.
No, I just like he was so right though, because she's
is
just
this
like
your card? Come
meet the guy that knew everything about me. How much did Judaism like play in your life when you were growing up?
It's pretty interesting, up and down and back and forth. And I've talked about this on other podcasts, so we're not
So I'm not going to talk about it now.
This is the end of the pod. I leave. I mean, I was raised fairly observant. I wouldn't say religious necessarily. A lot of my friends were religious.
Okay.
But there's a lot of falling in and out of the religion, which is actually a part of it, is to fall in and out of it and it's why it's Buddhism that actually brought me back to studying Judaism, because there's a lot of that in it too. Go out and do everything in excess and then you're ready. That kind of thing, right? So Judaism has a lot of like falling in and out of faith, and I mean, look at all the Old Testament stories.
Yeah,
it's Jewish people being like, nah, I don't know if God's real, and then doing some shit, and then God being like, by the way, I'm real, and then oh, God's real, and then they fall out,
yeah, it's a constant tale of them being restored, of having to return,
and getting
God,
fucked
right?
and getting fucked up for falling out of faith.
Yes.
And which I'm not I'm pretty attuned to, being like, when you believe in something, if you do it half-assed, you're not going to get the results that you want. And even the word Israel. The word. The word.
Have you heard that joke I've been doing lately? It's like, I just want to thank the Jews for taking the heat off straight white guys for a little while.
That's funny, man. I have one where I say, from the Jewish community to the trans community, I just want to say you're welcome. If you're. We'll take the heat off. Like, how about this? If you're a minority group that is being targeted, just remind them about us. We'll leave it to the professionals. We'll take it from here.
Oh no, I mean, it's a hot button issue. Like, I have a clip where I'm talking with Harv about why India is so like pro-Israel,
supportive,
and it's got like it's now at 100,000 views. It's like the most I've ever got on anything, and the comments are just fighting. Just people fighting.
Isn't it amazing how fighting brings people together?
I know.
I fucking love it. How it's like we were so close. We were so close to united between housing prices, just the cost of living stuff, the food, the housing prices, even the war on Ukraine. Even though some people are like, I didn't know that Ukraine and Russia were different, but like all of a sudden people were literally unionizing everywhere, and then this shit happened, and we're all like, fuck you, no your side, no this side, and it's like, man,
they managed to split us again.
We're all one, man. But what I was gonna say is the name Israel, the meaning of it is to wrestle with God, which is significant to the story where Jacob is then named Israel, father of the 12 tribes of Israel. I know you know this.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm doing this for the plebes.
Yeah, that's
right. But he wrestled with the angel at the bottom of the ladder, and then they were like, your name is no longer Jacob, it's Israel.
Yeah.
You wrestled with God, brother.
Yeah. I can't remember. Somebody did a bit about this, how like baller it is, like Jesus just renamed people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, God just wouldn't rename people. They'd be like,
you got a new name. Yeah. Abraham.
Well, Abraham. Yeah, Abraham went from
Abram, right?
Abram,
to
or
Abraham.
Avram to Avraham. Like Abram to Abraham. Now you're Abraham.
Yeah.
Like rappers, like Diddy.
Yeah. He said like 4 names.
Yeah, there's so many where they're no longer little,
Yeah.
I'm not little anymore.
Yeah. Man, it worked out for Lil Wayne. He just stayed little.
Yeah. Look at Bow Wow.
Yeah.
No one cared about Bow Wow once he got regular Bow Wow.
No.
He should now be Big Bow Wow, and we might pay attention.
Yeah. No, didn't he just go to Bow Wow?
He just went to Bow Wow, and it's like, all right, you were Bow Wow in your 20s. Now that you're in your 30s, what if you were a Big Bow Wow?
I just hope that all these people made money while they were in the spotlight. That's all I like. I just hope that you did like okay enough that your one song.
You ever get scared that things will work out for you?
A little.
I smoked some weed last night, and I was watching Curb Your Enthusiasm, and I started panicking about having to live a life like this. I'm like, look at these people.
Yeah, well, I think like part of the things I think about is like maybe I didn't start comedy till like this late in life, so I could actually handle the things that come at me as a result.
Yeah, you could like still cook a meal for yourself and stuff.
I can still live, and like, I think I was pretty impulsive when I was younger. I think that doesn't bode well for this. I think
that's why Tom Green actually turned out pretty good, because he only got up there, like his fame came around 30 years old.
Yeah. Was he 30 when he was doing his show?
He was like 29 when he was on MTV. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he didn't actually start doing stand-up till later.
Stand-up is way well after. Yeah. Stand-up was within the last. Well, no, he was doing stand-up, I believe, as a teenager.
Okay.
And then he had his show, so he focused on that, and now he's come back. And man, like he just seems to be like such a well-rounded guy
Yeah.
for like what his art was.
Oh my gosh,
You
it's
know?
so wild.
But I think it's because he was older and he knew, and like everything, nothing he did, as impulsive as it was, I don't think anything he did was actually impulsive. I think it was all
Well, you're saying on stage. I mean, with like lifestyle choices.
I think all around he was always very thoughtful and precise. You know.
Well, yeah, I mean, like the thing with Monica Lewinsky. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
came out with hand picks.
But they became buds.
I know.
He's also a guy who becomes friends with everybody for the most part,
Well,
except for that one guy on the street.
If I recall, he was like the only sympathetic person who came to. He goes to Monica Lewinsky and he's just like, "Let's just fuck with them," and she's like, "Please."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, he was someone who gave Steve-O like a pretty loud platform to tell his actual story and stuff and hopefully that helped him move forward. But yeah, no, it's I think about it sometimes where I'm like, man, like too much attention. Like I obviously we want attention because we're comics and creators and creatives, and you need you know, hopefully you want an audience to witness your art, but at the same time I'm like, man, too much attention's not good either.
Yeah.
Too much attention. I don't want people knowing what I had for lunch just because I posted a picture on the internet. Like being like, look, he ate. Like I saw this thing where everyone's like talking about Taylor Swift eating chicken fingers. I'm like, chicken fingers are delicious.
Yeah. What is?
They're like, look, she had chicken fingers with ketchup and mayonnaise. And it's like, who gives a fuck? She had fucking lunch.
Well, yeah. I mean, like and
it's crazy because back in the day they'd be like, these pop stars, they don't eat enough. She's eating chicken fingers. Leave her alone.
Yeah, well, it's like you. I grew up like idolizing Jim Carrey, and now he's a cautionary tale.
Yeah, exactly. And
like very few people get to that level.
Yeah, I grew up watching Sandler films, and honestly, I feel like Sandler created a generation of people who thought that you could just be a moron and still win.
Yeah.
Because he made movies about it, but he was actually a very hardworking guy.
Yeah.
And I was a kid being like, oh, you could just be a fucking moron.
Yeah.
And then you get the girl and you get the prizes and you win the championship.
Yeah. Oh my God. But I mean, yeah, it's like you don't realize when you're watching those movies in high school, it's like Happy Madison is the production company that made these movies. Like he was making money on everything in addition to just being an actor.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
It's we were talking before, so you were talking about Judaism, but like I remember us talking a couple months ago because you were saying that how we're split because of this war, and I'm seeing levels of anti-Semitism that I've never seen before. Well, no, I wanted to talk about it like historically. That's what you wanted to talk about, and I'm fascinated by it because it's something that I didn't realize how deep it went, how far back it goes.
It's like I mean. It's fucking weird, man. Because here's the thing about it is that one, it's super ancient, so it's so ingrained in society, and then also it's based in conspiracy theories and superstition.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that's how old it is that it comes from like ideas of like the idea of the crook-nosed witch with the warts on, like that's anti-Semitic caricature.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like
that comes that comes from not even that ancient. Like a lot of this starts in Babylon and Greece and ancient Rome, and then goes on into like England in the 1600s. And
well, I don't think people realized in the time that it was happening that the type of anti-Semitism that like Borat was espousing comes from a real place.
Well, that comes from Eastern European anti-Semitism, which was born of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion,
mm-hmm.
which is
something I've heard of, but I don't think I know anything about.
So it's a falsified document. Again, I'm not like a historian, but I have read about it a lot. There's a fantastic graphic novel about the history of this egregious document. The graphic novel is called The Plot.
Okay.
It's by Will Eisner of the Eisner Awards, one of the greatest graphic novelists of all time. And the Protocols of the Elders of Zion is a falsified government document.
Okay. Which government?
I'll get into it.
Okay.
So It's a falsified government document that espouses that there's a Jewish plot to take over the world.
Okay.
Now, it's plagiarized from a fiction that was written by a French author in, I want to say, the 1700s, in the late 1700s, and it had nothing to do with Jews at all. It was, I think, Montesquieu's Conversation with the Devil, and don't ask me really what that is, but it was a character from this point in French literature, I believe, and having a conversation with the devil about how to live, and the devil talking about, well, here's how you actually take over the world. And this man was put in jail and killed for writing this at this point in France. Now, during, I believe, the Russian Revolution, and I might be wrong because I don't really know Russian history that well, other than early 20th century, late 19th century. But during the Bolshevik reign in Russia, there was a pretty liberal leader who was trying to push agendas of unionization and things like that. And there was a group that disliked this, the more conservative group, but they knew that he hated Jews, as everybody did at this point in time. And so what they did was they took this conversation with the devil and had it rewritten by a journalist. Who basically plagiarized. And the way that people know that it was plagiarized was numbers for inflation weren't taken into account. There's like a bunch of language that doesn't make sense in terms of like the point in history in which they were. And there were things, and it's like an obvious plagiarization overall. It's almost verbatim. It's just, this is.
Have they done any recent verifications? And the only reason I say that is because in recent times with like the rise of AI, scholars have done this thing where they can compare like so many pieces of work.
Well, so
so I'm just sorry. I was just going to say, so they've done this with the Book of Mormon.
I see.
They've compared it to other books now, and they can do like massive searches more quickly.
Okay.
And they've more recently have found plagiarisms from like many different works.
Sure. So with this, I mean, Eisner in his book actually has the pages side by side. You can read them side by side.
Cool. Okay.
Also, and then the thing about this book is it's still alive today.
Yeah.
It has been reprinted in so many languages and sent globally, endlessly, shared, and it's bolstered a belief system. And like ancient anti-Semitism starts from like Babylon and Greece and ancient Rome, and the reason that it exists is because the Jewish religion is insular. It is pacifistic.
Okay.
So there's no "I'm fighting in your army" kind of thing, which is ironic now. But it's a pacifistic religion. Where we're just gonna do studying. It's studying, reading. In fact, it's the fact that we're a literary society is why Jews have been able to survive over the years, because we had newspapers and we were able to share information in the diaspora. Now, sorry. So
that makes sense.
The main origin of what at least for what I believe from my understanding of anti-Semitism and Judaism, the biggest fucking issue that started it all, because I see a lot of people being like, well, if you get kicked out of all these countries, and like, are the countries the problem? But here's the thing: it's like this all starts from Jews having one God that they believe in. That there is no God, no man, no nothing. You cannot bow to statues. You cannot even taking your picture for a long time was blasphemous. Because there's no idolization in Judaism.
No artwork, right? In Israel, I saw like a home renovation thing in Israel, and there was no like artwork. They used like the natural stone of the surrounding to like make it like
Interesting.
Graven image.
Graven images, yes.
Right?
Graven images, yes.
Yeah,
that is, and that's like idolatry is the
yeah.
fear there. So there was a lot of like,
but that's what I like
bow
love.
to this king, right? Bow to this king, and then Jews being like, no, we absolutely will not bow to that king.
Yeah.
Because what was a king? A king was someone who was appointed by God to rule the people.
Yeah.
And Jews would be like, you're not my fucking king, and they'd be like, well, bow to me or I'll cut off your head, and they go, fine, cut off my fucking head.
Yeah. Which is so funny because that's that's such like an North American spirit, right? Like king, bow to a king. Who, what king?
Yeah.
Like I feel those feelings now,
Yeah.
right? Like King Charles. Like, why are we still doing this?
But as a result of all of that, what had to happen to the Jewish community? The Jewish community had to protect itself and had to serve itself.
Yes.
So then and this happens every fucking century, when finances, etc., when everything gets difficult for everybody, and I'm a poor person. I'm a poor person. Okay, I'm a poor person. And there are that's the other thing is there are poor Jews. Yeah. But what happened was Jewish communities serve each other, and giving to charity is a big part of that, and giving to Jewish charity, making sure that the community is served, that the people are served. That's why, as a minority group, which is also something I think people forget, is that Jews are a huge minority. 15 million people, something like that.
Not just within their micro communities, but globally. Yeah,
globally. But we feed each other as a result of this, and also as a result of knowing that no one else is going to fucking do it.
Yeah.
And so when a lot of communities are suffering, the Jewish community does well.
Okay. Yeah.
Because and that's what happened in Germany in the 1930s, right? It was, well, we're all suffering, but look at all these villages across Europe where all the Jews are doing all right. And it's because they would have to, and that goes back to ancient Rome, where the reason that Jews are in finance even today, and all the Hollywood stuff as well, right? Like Hollywood was just financing, right? The reason that Jews ended up in finance is because in ancient Rome, Jews were not allowed to partake in any form of commerce.
Yes.
The only thing they could do was money lend.
Yeah.
You couldn't own property. You couldn't partake in agriculture.
Yeah.
You couldn't have shops. You couldn't, and even when you were loaning money, there were certain emperors who would be like, well, you can't charge interest to a Christian.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was like, we just had to be really good with fucking money.
Well, yeah, but it's like you were saying, they were forced into professions that were lucrative, but they were in them because the society at large viewed them as like a less than, or
you couldn't do anything else.
Right?
So we were like, well, if you give me some money, I can make you some more money, and then we can trade money. And that's kind of how it all ended up being.
Yeah, like it's
and I got none of those genes.
Well, it's like you don't. It's so funny how I could go. I think I went like decades without connecting the fact that the word Jew is in jewelry.
I don't think that has anything to do with it. No. I
thought they did.
This is over. No. We're done here. I've definitely taken note of that.
I thought I heard that there was a connection, but I'm very open to being wrong.
Yeah, you would hear there was a connection.
I'm really hoping. I gotta stop going on Twitter.
No, because there is a word that is Jewry.
Yes, that is.
So like global Jewry, like Jewishness.
The Jewry.
Yeah. But I don't think
that's like citizenry.
I don't think jewel and jewelry are actually interconnected.
I wish I had a free device I wish I had a Jamie who could like search this for me.
Yeah, I mean, I could search it up, but I think I have searched it up. I don't think they're connected because I think that etymologically they come from different places.
Okay, that's fair.
Jew comes from Judaism, Judah, like the city
J-U-D.
The city of Judah.
Yep.
Right,
yeah.
Which was Jerusalem and the city of Judah. Yeah.
But we're talking anglicized versions, right?
Anglicized versions, but I think jewelry comes from a different etymology.
All right. Well,
I'm not sure.
Well,
again, I'm not a doctor or a historian.
Somebody will comment and let us know if
find
the Jew in jewelry is from Jews.
Because of this podcast.
We're all canceled. I don't know. I feel like
can't be a white guy, can't be a Jewish guy. It's like, come on, man.
Any of this would imply that somebody will watch this, which
It's been fun hanging.
Yeah.
But as for paralegal, it has a lot of
We weren't talking about that at all. We were talking about the Articles of Zion.
I know. And then we go back to paralegal.
You want out of it.
Well, here's the thing: is paralegal is it's going to be really fun because it's going to be just a really fun way to explore social matters.
Yeah.
With cartoons and ghosts and horror and death and life, and it's gonna tackle all sorts of issues, which I'm excited for.
Have you guys written multiple episodes? Or are you focusing on a pilot?
I mean, I can't tell you too much, but we do have episodes lined up. Okay. Whether or not they end up being the episodes,
fair. But you've got a plan.
We have the whole show planned out.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
fair.
Yeah, and
That's
we're
cool.
we're pretty much we're like in production. It's just that what nobody will ever tell you about television, because everybody wants everything to sound like it's great and fun and easy, is that it takes fucking forever. It takes forever to make television happen because you have to have so many meetings. Yeah. And as a creative, you're like, well, why do we have to have meetings? Can't we just make the thing? And then people who are more the investor type, and I'm grateful for an opportunity to create something that people are invested in.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of logistics and talking about it's marketing.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks you have a TV show and like that's it. And it's like, no, it takes. No,
I mean when you're in,
there's a lot of stuff involved.
I know a bit from just my short involvement in doing commercials and like movies and
commercials
stuff.
alone. I mean, you watch a commercial, it's what 10, 20, 30
it's like 30 seconds, and
yeah.
it was like for one of them it was 2 days of shooting.
Yeah.
I think I wore like 3-4 outfits for one of them, and they needed to be each outfit needed to be approved by the company. Not even like the wardrobe person. Like I had to be approved by the actual company who the ad was for.
Right. What was it for?
Casper mattresses.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what I signed for that one, but I had a great experience. It was super fun. Like I had a great time. But then you see how much goes into it. But I've
done like reenactment shows where I've had, I don't know, maybe 30-40 seconds of screen time, a minute and a half of screen time.
Yeah.
And it's like a 12-hour shoot day in the freezing cold. You're like,
yeah, I did a reenactment. Yeah, I was in
Ghosts?
No, it was a true crime reenactment of it's a movie called The Squad. I think that's what they're calling it. I have heard nothing about it being released, but it's about this mom in Texas who got her ex-brother-in-law, or tried to get him to kill a cheerleader on her daughter's high school cheer team cheer squad. That's where it comes from. So her daughter could get a spot on the cheer squad. So it was a murder, but then the brother-in-law like ratted her out to the police. So yeah.
Is it a true story?
True story, yeah. Texas, early 90s.
But nobody died.
Nobody died.
No, that's not a very exciting story.
Yeah, right.
It's a happy ending, true crime.
Yeah, it was just. But I played the sheriff.
Okay,
I was the sheriff. I got to put the cuffs on her in it and stuff. So
God, I had the worst agent at one point. This guy would just book me in like bald roles. You just reminded me of something. He would just be like, "Oh, you're bald. Here's a role." And I showed up, and I was like a 40-something-year-old disgruntled farmer.
Yeah. Okay.
And I would show up to auditions for like these bald characters, and everybody in the room was like 55 years old.
Yeah. Well, I do. When I was doing them, I would show up and it was like dads, like white dads and stuff. Or sometimes it would be, I would audition for one that's a business professional. And those ones, like I don't have the teeth for a business professional.
Yeah.
Just, they're too goofy.
That's really funny. Yeah, no, there's a bunch where he's just like, yeah, I had dad roles, and I'm like, I'm more like the son, except that I'm bald. The problem is that I'm bald and I have this voice, and and I have much younger energy than a lot of people my age. So it's like, I don't know. Like, I guess he didn't know what to do, but sometimes it was like, come on, man. Obviously, I'm not the 45-year-old. Oh, get off my lawn,
Part of the thing for me was my agent kept on booking me for things that like I really had no business even auditioning.
That's what I'm saying.
Like one was for it was like a wrestler, like a WWE wrestler. I'm like, I don't have to build for.
Yes, you do. WWE.
I'm fat. Okay.
Yes, you do.
I'm too pale and fat for
Andre
that.
the Giant looked good naked?
God, man. He was all height. That was all he needed.
Yeah, there's so many of those guys.
But yeah, I just
they had fat wrestlers. Fat wrestlers was a big part of it.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody body built at the beginning.
Some of them did, but most of them were fat guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They all died of heart attacks. I ditched my agent though. I had the opposite problem though.
My agent would also call me. He would just be like, bro, I got you all. I was just like, I gotta get out of this one. He was just we were just a wrong match.
Yeah.
But yeah, he would book me on these roles. And the only one, I mean, he got me one that was pretty cool, but it was one of these reenactments.
Yes.
And it was Vice TV's Dark Side of the 90s.
Yeah, I auditioned for a few of those.
So I was in the one about Sub Pop Records, the grunge era. So it was about Nirvana, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And then everybody in the band of Nirvana was like a young model.
Oh, okay.
And none of them knew. Only one guy was closer to my age. He played Chris Novoselic.
Okay.
Yeah. It was like, of course, they got the older guy to play him.
Yeah.
But he knew a few, but nobody knew Nirvana. So I was like the oldest, and this was years ago.
Yeah.
And I was maybe 34, and I was like the oldest guy in the thing. Played Bruce Pavitt, creator of Sub Pop Records.
Okay.
And then I watched the thing, and I was like, oh, I see what they did. So what they do with a lot of these reenactment shows. By the way, I'll be the Penn and Teller of dismantling Canadian entertainment industry.
Yeah. Okay.
Just being like, here's what's actually happening when people tell you they have a TV show.
Oh, yeah.
So Vice TV's Dark Side of the 90s. So I think the reason why Canada gets so many of these, and again, this is conspiracy.
Yeah.
So many of these
true crime,
these reenactment shows.
Yeah.
Is because whenever I watch them, especially watching this Vice TV one, I'm like, they didn't need any of these reenactments. It's an interesting documentary, and then they throw these reenactments in. The reason they do it is because they come to Canada, they get Canadian government funding to create arts programming and like Canadian programming.
Yeah.
With government money by being like, well, we have all these Canadian actors doing it, because the documentary is all the MTV guys and guys who were involved with Nirvana.
Yeah.
And Sub Pop Records.
Yes.
And then they have us being like shaking hands,
looking,
nodding our heads,
like looking blurry,
looking a little blurry, a little smoky and blurry.
Yeah.
At least when I did the Ghost show, there was no blurring. It was straight up me, and I got a couple of lines. But with this one, it was blurry.
Yeah.
And even at one point, I forgot to take my glasses off, and they were like, fuck it, we'll just blur it out. Because the character didn't wear glasses.
Yeah.
And there's like, you see me like nodding my head at a Nirvana concert while everyone on stage has no idea how to play an instrument.
Yes, amazing. Yeah.
And then, I'm sitting there going, and then at the end, I see in the credits that they got Canadian Council of the Arts funding. And I'm like, it's because we were in it. And then it's a non-union gig, so we get paid very little from that. But it's a way for them to make that money off of their programming.
Yeah, it's like $300 or $400 a day.
Yeah. It was like $400 for the whole day, plus like as much food as I wanted.
Yeah, from the truck.
Honestly, dude, it was May 2021, and I was grateful to be part of anything at that point in time in Ontario.
Yeah, it just seemed to me that like ultimately you're just working for somebody else. Like I feel
you're always
like
working for somebody else unless you're working for yourself, and that's what I realized. Kind of, especially honestly in Canada, there's a lot of like, oh, I quit my corporate job to work for this such and such club. I'm like, that's a corporate job.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
You shouldn't have quit your other job for that either.
Yeah. Like I was doing like 15 self-tapes a week, and I was like, I'd rather just edit my own podcast.
Yeah. I was doing the I hate the self-tapes also.
No, they're rough.
It's like, I'm a very in-person person.
Yeah.
Whether you want to be my friend or you want to hire me for a job, I'm best seen in person.
Okay, yeah.
I've been described as someone who, like, when you think about me, you go, but then you see me, you go, oh yeah, this guy.
Okay. Well, I just during the pandemic, it was better because I liked doing all the Zoom auditions.
I hated it.
But then they started to go to in person, and then I'm in danger of losing my actual job. Like I'm leaving for like hours in the afternoon to go downtown.
Right. I was happy to lose any job that I had.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and then like with the self tapes, I would try to be creative. I'd wear a costume, and my agent would be like, "Don't wear a costume." I'm like, "Dude, if I showed up to an audition in a costume, I think I'd be a little more considered, you know."
Yeah.
But he
Okay.
goes, "No, in the self tapes, you gotta not have a costume and have a plain background." I'm like, "Yeah, but like, I have the costume for the character. Like, let me just.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be a comic book guy. I had a perfect costume for it. Did the act, and he's like, "No, glasses off, hat off." I'm like, "He's definitely gonna wear a hat.
Yeah.
He's a comic book guy."
Yeah.
If he's a bald comic book guy, he's wearing a hat.
Yeah. Oh.
Let me say from experience,
What do you want to do with comedy now? You made your album.
Just keep going.
Just keep going.
I just want to keep going.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tour. I am an American.
Are you really?
Yeah. So I can use that. And now that I actually have somewhat of a skill set in this thing, and I'm happy to play a long game.
Yeah.
I also had to work through a lot of my shit to get to like even the level that I'm at in terms of just being a comic, honestly. Like I think that the idea that you should be miserable as a comic is actually a detriment.
Yeah.
The more vegetables I started to eat, the better my comedy.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that. How, like, what do you mean?
I mean, there's a lot of stuff in terms of like my personal life and mental health. I've really, really, really doubled down on mental health stuff over the last like 5 years or so, and it's just made everything better and the reason is because it made my life better.
Yeah.
So I have better things to talk about. I have more relatable things to talk about. I worked on my relationship with my family and started seeing friends again, and put an effort into relationships that I'm in, or my romantic life, and like actually giving things the presence that is necessary, and the love and the care and the consideration. And as a result, my jokes aren't just about, oh, I was at an open mic the other night, or I was on the bus the other night, or I read this book, or I watched this documentary. I'm like, hey, I have a dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot, I have a dad, stuff like that. Or, my mom and my dad, they're getting all, like, I get to hang out with my niece and or my girlfriend and I, right? Rather than being like, so I was on the dating apps again, and it sucks because it's like, it's exhausting to hear people just be so fucking miserable all the time. And like, and I just didn't want, honestly, it was exhausting to hear myself. I'm going to take back saying anything about other people. It was exhausting to hear myself be so fucking miserable all the time. And I guarantee you, it was a huge detriment to my branding.
Yeah. Okay. Does that mean reputation?
Well, that is what your reputation is as an entertainer, as a creative. It is and yeah, man, like, I was coming off of drugs and alcohol when I moved to Toronto.
Where did you come from?
Montreal.
Okay.
I was miserable. I kept getting into really, really bad relationships, which is a pattern that, is something that you need to recognize. And it's not just funny. Like, yeah, I'd write jokes about it, and then one day I realized, oh, I'm not healing from any of this. I'm just making fun of it.
Yeah, okay.
And honestly, man, the pandemic, the shutdown, me having to just sit in my head and be like, well, there's a whole bunch of shit in here that I could clear out, know? Spring cleaning, and then going and spending time with family and friends, because those were the only people who you could kind of see were like your closest people. And doing all of that, man, I just think that I'm better for it, and therefore I can create my art and have more perspective and be a person to people. The audience is people. They're not like us.
Yes. Yeah, they're real people.
They're real people. We don't want to be real people, but we have to go up and talk to them about real people stuff. You've actually probably started with an advantage because you have children and a wife. And
I've been
I've lived a regular person's life.
Yeah, I've been told that by multiple people, how, like, at one point, and like not just from you, but other people have been like, yeah, I started to realize that the life of a single 30-year guy in his early 30s isn't all that relatable.
No, I mean, it's becoming more relatable, unfortunately, but but truly, what a lot of comics starting out don't realize is that, like, you actually can't really be an introvert and do stand-up comedy.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just only talk about documentaries that you watched, because not everybody watched that documentary.
Yeah.
Or even if they did, they already watched that documentary. You're not presenting much to them,
Yeah.
And also, like, people have families and people go out and do things and people travel and they don't just ride the bus. A lot of people don't ride the bus.
Yeah.
You know, you can't. I was on the TTC the other day. Okay, we've
Yeah.
heard it. We've heard it. Oh, it's
Yeah.
crazy on the T. You know.
Yeah.
Riding the bus is crazy. What happened to you specifically?
Yeah.
No, you know, I just noticed that it's crazy. It's like,
I live 2 hours away from the city.
Tell
I'm
me
never
a
going to be on the
story.
TTC. Yeah, tell me something I want to hear.
Which, like, is something, again, is something that, you know, I've had to learn and work from. Like, I really do come from like it's interesting because when I'm on stage, I've allowed myself to be whatever the hell the moment calls for. But off stage, I really work on, you know, trying to be as non-judgmental and, you know, as peaceful and compassionate and understanding and helpful as possible. But then, like, when I start talking about comedy, my teeth start to show. Because I really am someone who loves to help people, and I do mean the things that I say. But then when I'm on stage, I'm like, I don't give a fuck about anything up here.
Yeah.
And then I start having conversations about comedy, and then I start snarling a little bit, and I'm like, okay, let's take a step back. You know.
How did you find the Toronto scene change, like pre and post pandemic?
No, I don't even want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it.
Why?
So this is where
much worse?
Yeah, this is where I get upset, actually. Everything's great.
I don't have a frame of reference, so I'm doing it the way that it is.
Here's how I put it to a friend recently. I have a friend in comedy who just kind of came back.
Okay.
And we were talking about how, like, 'cause he was like, man, it's really different. And I was like, yeah, man, doing stand-up, especially in Toronto, it used to feel like an adventure.
Yeah.
I used to feel like I was on an adventure. I go from this place to this place, and there were mics everywhere too.
Yeah.
Like, there were more spaces to work and to learn and to grow. Now everybody is a politician who's got the best show in town. And by the way, whether it's a hot dog, a sandwich, a pizza, or a comedy show, if it says best in town, it is not.
Yeah.
It's not, because it's not a town. It's a city. Best in the city comes with accolades. It comes with a newspaper clipping at the very least.
4 stars.
Yeah. You have to put that. Best in town is hearsay.
Yeah. Okay.
But the other thing is it's like, I find that as a result that the growth within the scene, the growth mentality in the scene isn't there. Everyone's trying to capture that perfect clip. Everyone's trying to run the show. Everyone's trying to avoid the gatekeepers. But we need gatekeepers because it allows people to grow. You need a challenge.
Yeah.
You need a dojo master. You need to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you need to go and feed yourself to the fucking lions.
Yeah.
That's why I still will seek out the worst of the open mics. I'll go from, I remember right before lockdown happened, I did my first show of over 1,000 people.
Okay.
A theater of over 1,000 people. And then I went across the street to Toronto style.
Wow.
Comedy, whatever.
Yeah, bar, yeah.
Just like where there was a drunk guy getting mad anytime someone said anything blasphemous.
Yeah.
You know, it was worth it.
Yeah.
It was what you should like. I miss when it felt like I was on an adventure, when it was a journey throughout the night, and you know, everything seems so factioned and everything's so political and everything, and not even political like left and right, just political like politicking.
Yeah.
Wear your best face, networking. And it's like, man, we used to all be whatever the fuck we were. Yeah. And the other thing is if someone disagreed with your politics, you could still be in the same room with them and do the same show with them and allow for that person to make their own mistakes. It's why I love the Corner Comedy Club, because the philosophy behind that club is the audience will let you know.
Yeah.
We don't have to be punishing each other.
Well, yeah, it's because you say like what the Toronto comedy scene, and now it almost feels like, in a sense, you're saying like, which one?
Yeah, which one? What part?
Yeah.
And not even which one, like not even which one, like which pocket.
Yeah.
Like, it used to be one community. It used to be one scene. We were so much more supportive of each other when we were allowed to be mean to each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
You tell someone, but that's the difference between being kind and being nice. Everything's so nice right now, but like kindness is missing because no one wants to have the conversation of, hey man, you could also do better.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, yeah. Yeah, it's
everyone.
hard, though.
Everyone's glad handing. Not everyone, but there's again. I'm trying to say this without being too judgmental because I understand the eagerness and like the disgust with gatekeeping. Listen, I still deal with fucking all sorts of gatekeeping, but it makes me go, how can I be better?
Yeah.
And that's great. Start your own show, but start an open mic. Give back to the community. Give back. Give back. Give back. The problem with Canadian entertainment and maybe entertainment as a whole and kind of society in a lot of ways is the scarcity mindset of, well, if I can't have, then you can't have. But if I can't have what this person has, then you can't have what I have.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. If I go, you can have what I have, you'll probably go, hey, you can have what I have.
Yeah.
And then we'll go, hey, this felt good. What if we say that person can have what we have? Even though that we can't have what they have, they can have what we have, and then that creates this cyclical world of giving, right?
Yeah.
And I think that everyone's so afraid to not have that nobody gets anything.
Yeah.
And I think that support is actually offering to just giving back. Serving others is more valuable to you than serving yourself first. Does that make sense?
Yeah, very much so.
Like, if it just comes back. Look, I mean, oh man, there's so many ways I could go with it. It comes back to you, but it comes back to you by it coming back to everybody. Our scene we would have a healthier scene. We would have a healthier community if we were actually communal, if we were actually sharing with each other. But we're going, no, we're going to stay over here. So these people stay like this. And then these people stay like this. And then these people stay like this.
Which is really how you create, like, it becomes less of a community, becomes more of a competition.
More of a competition, and there's less for everybody.
Yeah.
There's just less for everybody. But if these people shared with these people and shared with these people, one, you'd have less infighting. You'd have less fighting, and then you'd have less infighting. We're all starving. We're all starving. We're all you. And then you have also all the lone wolves, the people who are like, hey, where can I get a stage? And everyone's like, oh, you want my stage time? It's like, dog, I just want stage time. I don't think that your show is going to make or break my career.
Yeah.
No one's going to notice me at your fucking bar show on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Can I just have a spot?
Yeah.
You know? No? Okay, fine. But you know what? If you asked me for one, I would give it to you.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it is. I mean, there are obviously people who I just don't want to be around because I just can't deal with their energies, or we've had clashes.
Sure.
But the bottom line is like, the more you give, the more you receive. And that's the fucking, that's a law of the universe, man.
Mm-hmm.
And right now there's so much like, it's a peasantry mentality. Like I get that. And then no one's actually creating anything of actual value. Everyone's creating the exact same thing. So like, instead of, I know I'm really going on a bit of a tangent here, but instead of being like, hey, what if this group and this group stop being groups and they become a community? What if instead of having 6 different shows with 6 different groups on one night, we work together and have one big show, or 3 big shows, or 2 big shows, right?
Yeah.
I'm stealing your audience, you're stealing my audience, they're stealing, and then everyone gets, so it's 6 shows with 5 audience members.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Instead of one show with 30 audience members.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I'd rather do a show to 30 people than a show to 5.
100%.
But everyone's doing shows to 5 people because they're like, well, we're over here and you're over here and we're over. I don't want your gatekeeping. Why don't we have conversations with each other, man? You know?
It's tough. Yeah. People don't want to get their feelings hurt. I think one of the things that I said for myself in this
Bring back the patriarchy.
I want to end it right there. That's what I feel like. Are we at an hour? Because we're at an hour and 20 minutes. We're ending on bring back the patriarchy.
I hope not.
No?
No, we could do it. That's fine.
No, I think that was great.
Yeah, that was fun. I hope that you edit the hell out of all of it.
This will be thrown up in its entirety, but then we'll have some. I'm sure we'll have some fun clips.
Sure. Cool.
But Jeremy Dobski, thanks for coming by, man.
Thanks so much, man. Yeah, I'll
it flies by.
It definitely does, especially if you get me talking about Buddhism, anti-Semitic Hitler.
Yeah, Hitler.
If you get me talking about Hitler, I'll keep going.
Yeah.
And you know what? We actually didn't really talk too much about Hitler in the anti-Semitism conversation.
No, we didn't.
But I think that's kind of like an inherent.
Well, you were saying, I'm so over Hitler.
Yeah. I mean, I did mention his favorite book.
That's right. Yeah. Well, this has been Half-Hearted. Jeremy Dobski, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.